Hi, welcome back to CS170 fall session. We're continuing on with JavaScript functions. So you remember earlier in the prior lecture, I talked about variable scoping. And so this is stepping into that topic here in the idea of local versus global variables. So you want to think about this and make sure you're able to trace this, because you're going to have something similar to this on your exam for JavaScript and on the final exam, obviously. Okay. So you remember what I referred to when we were talking about parameters, right? Or local variables within the function. So within the lifetime of this function, this variable is in play, but once you're out of it, it's not in play anymore, right? So it doesn't exist anymore. So let's come back to here and we'll talk a little bit more about this, okay? So what you're going to be asked to do is you'll see these different variables here and they're initialized, right? And this is trying to cover the difference between global and local variables, okay? So we have var x equals to 1, y equals to 2, z equals to 3, and the answer equals to 0. So here we say the answer is equal to, and then it's the output of this function, calc beta. Okay, so calc beta is going to take 1, 2, 3, right, x, y, and z, and pass it into a function, which is down here, calc beta. Okay, and it does some calculations in here. Okay. And you know, it gets a little bit tricky here. Remember what I said, within the function, I can declare the same variables. I can declare x and y here, but this is not the same as the x and y up here. Okay, that's a very important point. That's the distinction between local variable and global variable. Global variable means that in this case, you see x and y here. Okay, so you have the z here. Z equals to 3. This is your global variable. This is, if this is not declared in here, that means it's going to refer to the global variable. In this case, z equals to 3. Okay. Now, it doesn't work the other way around. If I declare a variable within this function here, and then I try to access it from the global, even though I haven't declared it, it's not valid. You can't get to it. Okay. So it only goes one way. Okay. So what does this mean here? Okay, so you're going to be saying, well, okay, what is the value for A and S? Well, A and S, you can see here, is the output of calc beta, X, Y, and Z, right? So that goes into here. And then we do some calculations here. So before we get to A and S, I guess let's take a look here. So we've declared the variable X and Y. And here, we say x equals to 2 times a, which is, this is a, which corresponds to this, and which is 1, right? So in this case, we say x equals to 2 times 1, which means it's 2. Okay, so that would be 2. Just going to say x equals to 2 for my notation here. And then y equals to b plus 3 times c, right? Which is this, right? B and c, which was 2 and 3, okay? So let's see here. So 2, well, let's do the multiplication first. So 3 times c, which is this, is 9, right? So this is 9 plus 2. Therefore, y equals to 11. Okay. And then we have z equals to 7. Now look up here. There's no z up here in your input into your function. So none of the parameters were z. And you didn't declare any z's over here. So what does that mean? Then you're taking the global z and you're changing it from 3 to 7 now, right? So now z equals to 7. Okay. And then you're going to return x plus y, right? So x is 2, y is 11. So therefore you get 13 that comes back here. So what does this mean? A and S equals to 13. What is x? X equals to 2. Okay. Well, I stand corrected. What is the final value, right? So the final value means we've exited out of this function and we're back into the main program. We're up here. Okay. So I'm not taking this value of x equals to 2. I'm actually taking this value, x equals to 1. I changed this value, x equals to 2. It only applies to this local x here. All right. So the final value of x equals to 1. Likewise, the final value of y is equals to 2, even though inside the local y is equal to 11. And then z is 7, right? Because when you set it to 3 here in the global variable, you reference that within the function and you set it to 7. So therefore, when you come back out, z is 7, okay? So what I just did here is what you're going to be doing on your own in your work for the test, okay? Okay. All right. So here is a couple of different examples play around with for functions. So we have chapter 19.1 sample1 .html, which I will put onto my resources for you, so you'll be able to see that. So this part is basically just setting the background, right? So if I look here, you can see this is the background here. Okay, so this is the page, right? So we're setting the background here, and you notice here you have your style, okay, like that, and then you can see your CSS here, okay. All right, so this should look familiar to you if you're looking at like the other types of formatting that we've done. Like I said, some of you submitted your HTML extra credit to me and showed me some mix of different colors. So that was pretty cool. Okay. But notice here, right? Body and background color, midnight blue, right? But you can work with any of the tags and you can set any of the attributes with CSS. Okay. But this is what we're working with here, and this is how you end up with this black background here. Here we create a function, okay? Now the important point to note here is when we do JavaScript, this is one way that we set up the stuff, the code. It's within the script here, right? And within that, we declare the function simple, right? And then we do something like this, okay? So in this case, we're doing this without any input of anything. Like we just kind of hard coded 1 + 5 × 2, and then we hit the calculate button and it will generate a number here, right? But it's easy enough to add something to it so you can do input to it, okay? So this is here, you remember the text box from the event-driven programming, right? So we have that, and then we have the button, right? And with that is the calc, right? The on click, you do the simple, and then you put the label of calculate on here, okay? Now, you can see we've changed it so you can actually pass in the number. You pass in the number, and then that number will be multiplied times 2, add 1, and then you show the answer. Okay. And then you're going to have your button ID, your calc on click, right? And then you're going to take the value that you put in here, textbox1.value, right? And then you're going to call the function simple num with the num as your input, your argument, okay? That's how you're going to end up with all of this here, okay? And notice here, this is the function. This is going to be returning your answer here. and you're taking the output, the return of that function, and storing it into this variable answer that I've declared and initialized given the output from this function. And then we display the answer into this text box.value. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and then I'm going to show you what that looks like. Like I said, I'm going to provide all of this into the HTML file shortly. So we'll stop here and we'll look at it here. So notice here's your styling. And then here's your function, simple input num. And then here's your button to do your calculate. So what does that mean? So if I put this here, I put a 5 in here, and then you can see it came back with 11, right? Which is 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1. And that's how you end up with 11, okay? So I'm going to stop this here. So I'm going to try this week. I'm going to try to break up the lectures into multiple examples of different functions. So you'll see we're going to do a coin flip. We're going to do the hourly pay calculation, and then we're going to do like another gas. We're going to do like a gasoline price calculation, and we'll use that as your extra credit. Okay, so stay tuned. I'll have some more examples coming soon for JavaScript functions. All right, thank you.